Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show, and it's our Leeds United end of season awards show. Myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me is Jason Buchan. We're going to be dishing out our awards for what has been a tremendous season for Leeds United. If you're watching along live, get your comments in. We might forget some nominees, so please get reminding us, debate. What do you think of our choices? We'll kind of go through nominees. We'll kind of let you know who we think deserves each category of award. So please do get involved. And if you're watching the video again later as well, please do get your comments in. These are always fun to do when you've had a good season, isn't it, Joe? When you just sat there, can relax, Premier League, safety assured, and we can just kind of take an opportunity to kind of praise and give credit to these players and the manager again, because there's been so many highlights throughout this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're never nice to do, really, when you've been relegated, are they? No. I always remember it's a bit of a childhood PTSD scar. Do you remember Boa Constrictor, who used to do Fan Zone? Yeah. They were really famous on all, famous, but he was well known on the forums. But he was the Fan Zone commentator for Leeds games when they used to do that on Sky. It were brilliant. And the season we went down, I always remember him. He had to pick game of the season, which he picked a 3-3 draw against Wolves.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? That's how bad the season was. He had to pick like a player of the season. He picked Alan Smith, and even though there was just no other options. I always remember how depressing it was. So yes, it's very nice to do this when we've had a good season and a successful season. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've got our list of awards to go through. The first one on my list here, top of the list, and this is going to be a nice one to talk about, Jay. This is Match of the Season. Now, we've had a lot of very interesting, very fun, enjoyable games this season. I think I know which one we're both going to go through, but before we get into the game that I think we're both going to mention. Oh, wow. Just drop this in David Slot's. Wow, okay, drop the bomber on that one. But yeah, we'll have to check that out. But Match of the season. Obviously, there's been some dramatic games. I mean, kind of what stands out in my memory was the 3-1 Chelsea game. I thought that was we were at a point in the season where backs against the walls for everybody, Farker included. We'd seen a second half revival against Man City, but that Chelsea game, it was so crucial and phenomenal performance, physically bullied Chelsea, but we also had the quality as well. Some great games like that. The Liverpool comeback 3-0, you mentioned a 3-0, but that was a 3-0. That was dramatic, and that was part of that period as well. On the disappointing side, but it was a fantastic game. The Newcastle game, the 4-3, that was, absolutely brutal. I mean, an unbelievable game, but just far too brutal of a finish to pick as the award. Mine, obviously, is going to be the first victory at Old Trafford for 45 years, 2-1 to Leeds United. One of the games where, if you have to look at this season, what encapsulates this season for me is that night at Old Trafford. We were on the back of a run where we'd not won for a while. I think we'd beaten Forest and we'd not won since the Forest game. The pressure was just starting to kind of increase again. You're looking at that game, they're rejuvenated under Michael Carrick. You're thinking this is going to be potentially a really difficult, punishing evening for Leeds United. And instead, we turned on an incredible performance. I mean, the first half in particular, we could have left that 3-4-0 up. Noah Okafor wrote his name into legend that night as well. And I remember our post-match review, we were just on cloud nine. We could have talked all night. Incredible stuff. So that's mine, the 2-1 victory against Man United. Yourself, Jay, any other games you want to give a shout out to? And then I can imagine yours is pretty much the same one.
Yeah, I mean, there is a couple of others that I will just kind of mention briefly. I think the opening day of the season against Everton, I know the game itself wasn't, electric or anything like that, but it was a statement that we turned back up in the Premier League and won the game 1-0 late on. A late winner always feels great. So I think that deserves mention. I think Crystal Palace at home, Leeds United 4, Crystal Palace 1. I mean, that at the time, you mentioned it a lot, like we needed a statement victory, and that felt like a statement victory at the time. And yes, it was set piece heavy, but we blew them away that day. We were so much better than them. There's others as well. I mean, when you start doing this, you start kind of understanding what a season we've had. We beat West Ham and Nottingham Forest both at home fairly comfortably. Could have been within outside chances. If we'd not beaten them lot at Old Trafford, the 1-1 draw at Ellen Road, even though it was a draw, we were very competitive that day. We took the lead, and I kind of rue the fact that we weren't able to keep that lead a little bit longer, because if we had, I think we'd have gone on and won that game. Amorim gets sacked after that match. So there's plenty of kind of candidates, but you can't give that award to anything other than that game. I still just randomly bring it up on YouTube and the commentary where Gary Neville's just talking to score again, and then I think it's Martin Tyler, whoever, just goes, "No, Rockefeller!" He just I absolutely love it, and it was just brilliant, mate. And like, as you said, the performance first half could have warranted being 3 or 4 in front, and beating them lot first time in 45 years and all the rest of it at their place when they're in good form. I mean, I think they'd won 7 out of 8, including that game or something, and we were the only team that kind of could lay a glove on them, and we turned up and actually fully deserved. We didn't smash and grab it. We deserved to win that game. So yeah, it was sensational, mate, and it's probably the highlight of the season all over, isn't it? So
yeah. In a season where we kind of broke a lot of records and things hanging over our heads from decades old stuff, I think that was probably the most enjoyable. I think it was just staggering to do, but critical. I mean, it's not that it wasn't really. I mean, if you take those at that time, obviously we finished comfortably in the end, but at that time, if you'd have taken away those 3 points, we'd have been up against it then.
100%, yeah, it'd have been squeaky bum time, wouldn't it, without it? So
yeah, indeed. So that's our match of the season, the 2-1 away victory against Manchester United at Old Trafford. Next up on my list here, most improved player of the season award, and this is always kind of an interesting one when you look through. I guess the new signings don't talk unless you think of their progression maybe from when we first saw them through the season, but I guess you might be looking at kind of older kind of members of the squad. A name that jumped out immediately for me, much discussed on this channel, Pascal Struijk, who I think we had big reservations on. 2 years in the Championship, we'd kind of I always thought there was a player in there who had some very good aspects to his game, but mentally switching off and a bit panicky sometimes, and there were frustrating moments. I thought the couple of times in the Championship when he came out of the back line and Ampadu played there with Roder, I thought we improved. So coming into this season, I thought, not sure how Pascal's gonna do, but as that left centre-back role in that 3, I feel that there's been games where I expected him to struggle, maybe unfairly, and he's proved me wrong. He's proved me wrong. I think, Liverpool away and Manchester United away, there's been games where he has shown that level needed. And, I love to be kind of proved wrong on that front, because I really didn't think he would be able to potentially step it up this season. But for me, he's just improved massively through the course of the season, has really stepped up to the plate. So he's kind of the first one I'm looking on in terms of most improved. Have you got any others that you're thinking about, or anyone else on that list, or what do you make of Struijk? Would you class him in that category as well?
Well, it's a funny one with this conversation, isn't it? Because you could argue, because we've stepped up from the Championship to the Premier League, that every single player has then improved, that has been able to kind of carry with us. David put there Ampadu, and like to start with, in my head, I scoffed at it, and then I thought, well, no, he has still significantly improved on last season. The difference is that he was still such a high level last season, so you can't give him the most improved player when he was already probably our best player last season, if that makes sense. Like, it's from where they were to where they are. And I also don't, when we're talking about Pascal, we're not comparing Pascal. Our irritations, our negatives with Pascal aren't around what he did last time in the Premier League, what he was doing in the Championship last season and the season before. I've had my problems with Pascal for a long time because of his concentration levels. There's loads of things I think have been deficient in his game. He's been excellent this season. It's not that he was performing like this before and I was wrong or you was wrong, in my opinion. It was that he has now taken them negatives away from his game and he has improved and now he's a good player. That's how I see it. Like, that is genuinely how I see it. I'm not saying that he was always bad. He definitely wasn't always bad, but he was our weak link. He was, and that's why when we came out of the side at times over the 2 previous seasons in the Championship, we often did look better. Yeah. But if we lose him now, we would look worse. Because he's been so much better. I think you could argue Karl Darlow could go into that conversation. I think you could argue that Joe Rodon as well. Even though I thought he was brilliant in the Championship, I think he stepped up. I've already done some of these awards on my own channel, so I've kind of already pre-formulated some of my opinions and arguments. And when I was discussing most improved, Pascal Struijk was my number 2. For me, it was Brendan Aronson. And I know that I'm a little bit of his biggest cheerleader, but I think Brendan Aronson has been absolutely essential this season. He came into the side when we were desperate for creativity, and he found a purple patch in which he gave us that. Now, teams started stifling it and started working it out and started working on it, but he still managed over 10 G&A this season in the Premier League. Given the fact that he wasn't expected to play any game time this season, most people wouldn't have had him anywhere near the starting 11. He displaced Dan James in the early part of the season and he made that right midfield position his own. He then played centre midfield quite often in a 3 when we went to the 3-5-2 or the 5-3-2, however you want to look at it. He played as the second striker at times. His press has never been in question, his defensive work, but he's also brought in more creativity this season as well. He has improved in composure. He's scored goals that he would never have scored last season. So for me, he's my most improved.
Yeah, I was thinking of Brendan. I think I'm dropping him into another category. That's where I've kind of got my head with Brendan, but I can completely understand why you've done it. I think Darlow's an incredible shout. Darlow, and I've mentioned this a few times, when the first time I saw him play for Leeds United, couldn't kick a ball, looked out of his depth. The level and his age as well, when you factor in the age of him, 35, 36 as well. As David says here, Darlow starting Prem goalkeeper. I mean, if you'd have said to us 12 months ago that Karl Darlow will be, clocking up 20-odd appearances in the Premier League, you thought, oh, well, which relegation place did we finish in at that point? And he's done so well that, now it's one of those head scratchers where you're going, okay, can we get away with not having to reinvest in the keeper position? What we're going to do with Darlow's contract, yada, yada, yada. I mean, the improvement with his feet, and I know he's had a couple of moments, last couple of games where people have been a bit nervous, but it's an unbelievable improvement from Darlow, a staggering improvement. Sorry, go on, you finish on Darlow.
It is. I mean, I do think if we're being serious in our recruitment this summer, we go and sort that situation out. If he was 25... and he put in the performance, I'd be saying, yeah, fine. I remember us a year ago having the same conversation about Karl Darlow. Would it be worth just taking the risk on him for another season, to give more recruitment space to other positions? Yeah. And it seemed like a bit of a mad idea, really, given how he'd come into the team. But he's displaced Elan Meslier, then displaced Lucas Perry. He deserves a lot of credit. He deserves a lot of credit for how he's still improving his game at this stage of his career. And who knows? Who knows where that will... I can imagine... We had the conversation about whether he would go to Spurs, because I know he'd been linked with Spurs. He'd be a perfect number 1 for West Ham if Hermansen and Areola maybe are not there. So, he deserves a whole host of credit. Like I said, I think it's a different conversation to potentially think about selecting him purposely as the number 1 for next season, given his age especially. But it's hard to argue that he doesn't deserve it because he's been very, very, very reliable this season.
Yeah. One more I want to mention for kind of most improved as well, and I guess it's a little bit of a contradiction as to what I said at the start of discussing this would be Noah Okafor. If you look at the kind of first, third of the season, Noah Okafor versus what this kind of last third is, if you look at how he's improved, the output has improved, and I thought he was absolutely crucial in us getting over the line. I think if you take him out of that team at that period, i.e., we've just been discussing the Man United victory, I think we'd have really struggled. The Noah Okafor that's kind of finished the season up until the injury, compared to what we got originally, I think there's been clear improvement there as well.
100%, yeah, 100%. I mean, it's tricky when you're talking about new signings, old signings, the different parts of the season and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, Noah Okafor's come on so much, and there's an argument that we would have still been in with a shout of being relegated come game week 38 if it hadn't have been for Noah Okafor's form. Yeah. I don't think that can be argued. He came in when we absolutely needed him. I think it was 7 goals in 9 games or something like that. Like, it was a really good turn of form from Noah at an absolute key time. So yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, good stuff. Jimmy, welcome along, mate. How are you doing?
Who are you agreeing on for that one? Oh, we're not doing that. Are we just going to kind of?
Are we what? Sorry.
Who are we agreeing on for most improved?
I think we should each have his own kind of final verdict because we might disagree because I've got Aronson down for another category, but for most improved, I think I'm going to go Darlow. I'm going to pick Darlow because I think Strauch had those attributes. There was the potential, but I think Darlow's completely transformed in so many ways. So yeah, I'm going to have to go Darlow, and you're going Brendan.
I'm going Brendan. Yeah,
you're going Brendan for that. Great stuff. Okay, the next category then, underrated player of the season, who's kind of doing all the hard work and not getting the credit, not getting noticed. Now, there's a few I just want to kind of bring to the fore before kind of settle on it. I look at someone like Gruev. I think Gruev's massively underrated. I think he was a player that 90% of the fan base, if he'd have been let go last summer, wouldn't have thought twice about it. Didn't start the season, but I remember a game very early on against Newcastle, the 0-0 at home. Gruev came in and was tremendous and really kind of showed things up after we got thumped by Arsenal away. He had a period where he was playing kind of week in, week out, and he did his job phenomenally well. And you could scroll through social media, and there was always criticism when Gruev was in the team. We remember the meme of the Gruev heat map and how that caught fire, and everyone was kind of mocking the club for putting the Gruev heat map out. But I just think when he came in, the job that he did, with his limitations and everything like that, I thought it was phenomenal. I thought he did a really valuable job for us. And I think severely underrated. I'm not saying he's my pick because he's not, but I just want to give a shout out to Gruev in that category, Jay.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think he's played a massive part this season. I think what Ilya Gruev does is he makes us even more difficult to beat, and some people don't like that. But he's reliable, and he allowed Leeds United to grow into this season. I know JB's in the chat now, and he scoffed at me a lot for saying about the draws. Ilya Gruev were a big part of that. Them points on the board that we got over the season, he was a huge part of that. He's got unreal technical deficiencies. He's hard to watch at times, but he's very clever. His understanding of space on the pitch is excellent. It's as good as anybody in the Premier League. It's just he ain't got the other bits to go with it. So I think it's a great shout. I think it's an absolute fair shout, yeah.
Yeah. Someone else I want to give a shout out as well is Sebastian Bornau in this category in terms of underrated. Now, obviously, we've not seen loads and loads and loads of him. I'm just looking at his appearance. I think he's made about 12 appearances, 7 as a sub. But I thought he has filled that kind of vacancy of you've got your 3 centre-backs. You know who your 3 starters are week in, week out, but you need that cover. You've got James Justin, obviously, done fantastic and filled in, but a proper centre-back I think Bornau has been perfect for that role of coming in. And the performance I always look at with him is Anfield away, and how he came in and was so solid and composed. It was almost like the perfect bench centre-back. It was like not good enough to kind of really get a start or, be that competitive in terms of getting, be all out of the team or a road on, but just that perfect kind of standing, right? You've got a depleted centre back, your injuries, suspensions, whatever, are bitten down. Right, we can trust Seb to come in. There was a game a few weeks ago where he came on at half time or something, and he was just assured. He was just good. It was like
as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like we signed him for £5 million or whatever it was. It's like an absolute bargain, but he's come in and he's done a job. And it's like, I'm more than happy keeping him around. If we do continue with 3 at the back, we need numbers. I think he's been really, really solid. Yeah, he's not as good as the 3 starters, and he'll never displace them. But I think he's another one that's been really underrated. I think fan base have been a bit, kind of dismissive of him. I think he's been really good.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's he's got a record now of 9 consecutive starts without losing, and I think it's a Leeds record of some sort. Like I saw it on socials the other week. I don't know how true it was, but he's done unbelievable, and he's coming at some absolute key game. I mean, like you mentioned the Liverpool away performance, he was unreal that day. He's coming at right back at times as well, which is unnatural for him. He's played all over the back 3 in terms of different sides. I think he's been. It's a great shout. I mean, who is your? You're going to come to it. I know it is.
Yeah.
So I'll give you just a couple of my thoughts, and I think Jacobiol is kind of. I don't think he gets the plaudits that he deserves. He's not my pick, but I don't think he gets the plaudits that he deserves and how important he's been since he actually really came into the team on a regular basis. I think Joe Rodon and Pascal Struijk get mentioned a lot, both positively and negatively. I think Jacobiol just goes around his business, just doing what he does, and he's been absolutely key. But for me, my pick's James Justin, and I know there's been some kind of acceptance that he was way better than what people thought he was. But when you think of how important he's been since he came into the side, he's played at right back extremely well, or right wing back. He's played at left back extremely well when he's been needed to do a job there. He's dropped in for Joe Rodon and Pascal Struijk and Jacobiol for that matter. He's dropped in for all 3 of them across the back 3. He's never looked out of place. And I think he's been absolutely key. I'd say there's an argument that is in the conversation. I don't think he should get player of the season, but I think he's in the conversation for player of the season. I think he's been that good, and people won't entertain that as an idea. So that's why he's my underrated player of the season. I think he's been absolutely massive. I think there's an argument, mate, that he'd have been on the fringes of an England call-up. I think he's been that good, and given how versatile he is, I think he's been unbelievable, James Justin, this season. And the surprise on that signing and the value for money, unreal.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with anything you've said there. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal and a real surprise of the season. If you kind of adjust in the category to kind of underrated or surprise, absolutely agree. My pick is Brendan Aronson. For a lot of the reasons that you mentioned previously, I think if you look defensively, in a team that is fighting to stay up, his defensive numbers are otherworldly. I mean, they're the highest in the Premier League.
He's number 1 in the whole division.
He's number 1 in the whole division, and it's so underrated. Is that it's so key to how this team has survived this season, and I think he's improved significantly on the output end as well. Like you mentioned, the goals, the assists. Other times when he could have had more assists if someone would have put the ball in the back of the net. I agree. We can upgrade in terms of that final output, and hopefully, as Leeds progress, maybe you rely less on him having a buzz round, like an absolute maniac to win the ball back. But I think that's a conversation for another day. I think in terms of underrated, I think he still has a lot of the fan base on his back. I still think there's a lot of negativity towards Brendan. I think there's not a lot of appreciation to what he gives, and that's for me why he's the underrated player of the year.
Yeah, I can totally get on that. I think for me, he would have won one of the categories, but we did make the agreement that you can't win more than one. So I went with most improved, but I think that's absolutely fair. And I think for as long as he's with Leeds United, he will fall into that underrated category. There's a reason why Daniel Farke plays him. That output is absolutely necessary for a team that's trying to bridge the gap in quality. And it weren't just. I think there was one player that was close-ish to him in terms of distance covered for defensive press. The gap then thereafter that was absolutely seismic. It's like 400 kilometers more than anyone else after that second person. I can't remember who it was that was number two. I think it might have been another Leeds player. Unbelievable. Yeah. I think it might have been Calvert-Lewin. But it's unbelievable the work that he gets through. So he deserves all the credit in the world, mate. And I've always been a big defender of him. I would now say that I'm a fan. I'm a big fan of what he's about. Yeah, he can improve in certain areas. If he did everything that he does that we love, plus loads of creativity, goals and assists, he wouldn't be anywhere near Leeds United. That's the truth. He'd be in one of the best clubs and the most successful clubs in the world. So, yeah, he deserves the credit.
It's a strange one, Brendan, as well, because sometimes he shows really good technique. You know, the way he spins away from a player, or those moments where there was a game recently where he dribbled away from a defender, and you're like, wow, that's like high-level skill. But then other times, obviously, where it doesn't there's not that consistency in that area of it, really. But yeah, so yeah, my most improved player. Next, this is probably, well, looking at it, the only negative kind of award, but I just thought it'd be interesting to debate flop of the season. This is now, I don't think there's been many flops this season, what you could term flops. It might be a little bit harsh to kind of even describe it as that. Probably your nominees for that, okay, you can look at someone like Dan James, for example. So Dan James had a phenomenal 2 years in the Championship. And he was always one of those players when it was coming to the Premier League, thought, can he finally step up? Can he step up to that level? He started the season, but unfortunately got really badly injured, and he's been on and off with injuries all the way through. He's come back into the team recently, and for me, it looks limited. It looks like a lower level player at a higher level. He's not my pick for flop of the season, but in terms of him as a nominee, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it's harsh to potentially give somebody flop of the season because of injuries, or when he's not had the potential to actually then show us what he can do or not do. I know in the limited time that we've had, we've not seen a great amount to say that he can do it. I understand why you would potentially bring him into the conversation, though, because it's been such a drop off from last season, and I think it's an interesting one with DJ. I'm sad for him because I really like him. It goes into the Brendan Aronson category for me of players that give their all, and you want to see players like that succeed, but ultimately quality tells. I think I think the nominations probably go into three. I see David put Buonanotte. Buonanotte would obviously be in the category, but I'm not going to even discuss him just because he's a lone player, came in January, and we saw how poor he was early on. I actually thought he had a couple of nice moments when he came on the other day. It looked like he got himself back into fitness. Yeah. And I think that's what it was with Buonanotte. I think he was so disconnected with what happened at Chelsea. He must have just let himself go a little bit. I mean, that Birmingham performance was one of the worst. It wouldn't have looked out of place if me and you would have played instead. That's how bad it was. But I think the award has to go to one of two players. Lucas Perry or Joe Perreault. I think it has to go to one of them two, unfortunately. Both for pretty different reasons. Lucas Perry comes in for big money, expecting to be the number one, ends up losing his place to £500,000. Carl Darlow is what we signed him for, 35-year-old backup goalkeeper. It's hard to kind of shift away from him, even though I think he's been treated very harshly. I don't and I didn't agree with it at the time. I didn't like the way that it was treated by the fan base and by Daniel Farke. But the decision has been proved to be right by Daniel Farke. I can't argue with that. And Joe Perreault, I had this inkling he would look much better. He would be able to replicate some of what he was able to do last season. He's gone from being our top scorer for 2 seasons, top scorer in the Championship last season, to not even scoring a Premier League goal. That's pretty damning. So I'm gonna lean on the side of Joe Perreault over Lucas Perry personally.
Yeah, do you know what? I'd not even thought of Peru, and when you brought it, clicked straight away. I was like, because I agree. I think with Perry, on paper it looked perfect. It was like, less than 20 million euros, really highly recommended, 28 years of age. If that signing works, a goalkeeper at 28, it's like, 6-7 years you could, it would have just been absolutely perfect. Everything on paper said this is going to work. And he's had some really good performances. Problem is just not reliable enough. I mean, you look at the West Ham FA Cup game and it was fine, and then nearly gave it away, at the last minute. Obviously, wins us the game on penalties in the end, so we can't be too critical. But yeah, just maybe mentally not, I don't want to say not strong enough, but maybe mentally a little bit like Tanaka, too self-critical, too much self-doubt going on. But 16 appearances is hard. He has contributed to this season, and who knows, there might be a way that he can improve. If you'd have told me Darlow would be doing what he's been doing now 18 months ago, a year ago, I wouldn't have believed it. So potentially there's still time for development there. Maybe he can still get up to speed. It's a bit of a headache for the club, because to go out and use some of this, really valuable transfer budget on another goalkeeper just feels like, it's kind of, but we wanted to get this done last year, so it is a bit frustrating to maybe have to do that again. But like you say, can you really, stick with Darlow for another season? I'm not too sure.
If Daniel Farke's not entertaining the idea of Lucas Perry being number one, we have to go out and sign another one. We have to. I know people love the romantic side of Karl Darlow being the number one, but you have to look at it bigger than that. It's way bigger than that. You have to move Lucas Perry on, even if you need to lose maybe a couple of million on that. Say it didn't work out. He'll still be an attractive proposition for a lot of clubs. Will Lucas Perry? He will. And you go and sign someone else that's going to be the number one. And again, if you give Darlow a new contract, obviously you give Darlow a new contract. But you then say to Karl, look, you've proven that you're capable in number one. You go out and you challenge for this spot. I want 2 keepers that are capable of being number one. And you hope that the player that you bring in actually holds that place down, But I think it's such a difficult one with goalkeepers. It's an interesting one. It's come up a lot in conversation this week with what's happened with Elan Meslier. It's funny how that narrative rewrote itself as well, by the way, because I saw your video on your own channel with regards to Elan, and the amount of comments that, I think he's been treated terribly, and he should have been brought back in, and he should have played game. And it's like, what? I loved Elan Meslier once upon a time as well, but how has this happened? How do we do this? There wasn't a fan in the world apart from me that was saying that Daniel Farke were making the wrong mistake, and I was still trying to defend Daniel in terms of then keeping your number one in place. It's bizarre how time changes things, but yeah, the goalkeeper position will always be a tetchy one, won't it? Because of what goes on as soon as it goes past you. So
yeah, it's on a knife edge, isn't it? Peru, though, I think Peru is my choice as well. Jay, I think I was really hopeful about Peru going into this season. He looked fit, he looked sharp pre-season.
Bleep test.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he wins that. 26 years of age. You just think, this is just set up. Technically, the finishing is superb. And he was good against Everton in that opening day win. He was linking up the play very well. But as soon as we seemed to come up against teams that, didn't want to let us play as much, the struggle, you could see straight away with Arsenal. He couldn't hold the ball up. He couldn't physically get involved. And that's been the story of his season. I think 1 goal in the FA Cup against Norwich, I think, is about it. Beautiful finish. And, it's sliding doors moments. I remember when he came on against Man United at home and that left-footed curl, and if he puts that away, does it change the trajectory for him? If he could have just got that one goal and suddenly the confidence grows. There was a game recently where he had came on in similar shot and it just didn't quite happen. And just some of his attributes, it's a weird one because he's a big bloke, but he seems to have no physicality. Really good finisher, but he's got no pace. It's like he's a real mishmash of a player, and there was arguments obviously that he never really fit a Farke team in the first place, but obviously did really well in the Championship for us. And I just don't see a future for Peru at the club. There's no way you're going into next season thinking this guy is going to do. You just wouldn't. It's one of the first names out the door for me, unfortunately to say, because he's just there's nothing to his game that you think improves us. Over Calvert-Lewin, it's never in a million years.
He's certainly a victim of circumstance because, we played very differently this season than we did last season than we've ever done before. I truly believe, and I've said this before on this show, I think if you put Joel Perreault into a team that have more of the ball than us, that dominate games, I think he could be an absolute lethal finisher. I think if you put him into a Brentford or a Villa, and I'm not saying he'd get them moves, but if he was their option, you'd see him score a lot of goals in the Premier League because the goal don't change. His finishing ability is incredible. His movement's very good in and around the box. But we need the striker to do what Calvert-Lewin's done this season, what Lucas Metra's done this season when he's been asked to do with it. Perreault just can't do that. He's not got it about his game. So he will go somewhere and be an absolute nuisance. And at Championship level, if you put him in a Burnley, if you put him in a West Ham, I could imagine West Ham picking him up and thinking, you can do a job for us for a season. If he goes over to the Eredivisie and play back in Holland, I could imagine him doing really well at a top team, PSV, Feyenoord, somewhere like that. He'll go and score goals, but he just won't be at Leeds United, unfortunately. It's a shame because I really like him. I really, really like him. I like the way that he carries himself. I love watching him finish. Every time that he strikes the ball at goal nearly, you just know it's going in. It was a joy to watch in the Championship. So, but yeah, unfortunately, it has been a big because I made the case that I thought he would score between 5 and 10 goals this season, and it's not been anywhere near that, to be honest.
No. Next category then, goal of the season. And we saw some belters. There might be one man who's kind of contending for this on his own. What kind of immediately comes up to me, the three that it's a debate amongst is the Stack goal against Wolves, the Stack goal against Villa, and then the Sunderland goal, DCL, after the team move. If we start off kind of in chronological order, the Stack one against Wolves, that was the first, he played well against, he played well, but that was the first time it was like, wow, he can be that much of an impact. He can do that with a football. Wonderful strike in a game where we needed to win. That meant no doubt about it. Not won since that opening day against Everton. And, you're just watching this guy, the way he hits a football, it just
true.
And what a goal that was against Wolves.
Yeah. You kind of wrote the script perfectly there with the ones that you've mentioned. I do think that the two Okafor goals at Manchester United kind of deserve a mention as well, because they were both beautifully struck. Even though the second one takes a deflection, I love the second one.
Yeah.
Just because of how he strikes it. There's a few others as well. I think an aesthetically pleasing team goal, the Sunderland goal, can't even be disputed, really. It's a beautiful goal. The build-up, the passing, the Brendan cross, and then the Calvert-Lewin finish. Yeah. You did ask me to keep this chronological, and I've done it. I've just gone my own direction. When I discussed these, it kind of came down to the two free kicks. The Villa one, I think, is far more about surprise than it is. Not that it's not quality, because of course it is. He puts it in an unbelievable spot, but the surprise element catches Martinez out. The Wolves goal for me is just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. The keeper is on that side of the goal. He's at the wall, covers the other side of the goal, and he's there. He's not even stood that far away from it. And Anton Stack puts it so perfectly in the corner. It's on the postage stamp, right? And the arc and power, it's an unreal goal. And it is, for me, it's the goal of the season. I thought it was unreal. But there were a few other candidates that you could definitely mention. There's so many good goals to kind of thing. I really like Lucas Metra at Forest. It didn't mean anything because obviously we ended up not winning that game, but he kind of does a step over, brings it onto his right-hand side and drives it across the box. Brendan Aronson away at Newcastle was a lovely goal. Brendan Aronson at home to Manchester United was a great goal as well. Takes it onto his left foot, shrugs off, I think it was Haven, and puts it across in his left foot. It's really well taken. But yeah, Anton Stark, Wolves away. It's just such a beautiful goal to watch.
Yeah, no, I think you sum it up really well. I think for mine, it's the Sunderland goal, the DCL goal. I just loved it. It was just some of the best football that's been played in the Premier League this season.
Every player touched it as well.
Oh, yeah, every player touched it. I love Strauch's pass and move at the start that just creates that space. Stack's ball, that whipped ball out to Aronson. Absolutely fantastic. Aronson, great ball in. DCL pops it in. I just thought superb. I mean, I love Stats goals as well, but just the footballing element to that, the passing, the movement. I can imagine Farke being so thrilled with that as well, because Farke does like good football. He wants that type of football.
I tell you another underrated shout just very quickly as well, just because of the technique to do it, was Calvert-Lewin's first goal for Leeds against Wolves. The Jaden Bogle cross that kind of floats, and he angles his neck and his header to kind of get it to drop into the top corner. Like he's never going to win goal of the season, but it's an underrated goal of the season.
Tanaka Chelsea as well. That was a phenomenal goal. That was an absolute phenomenal. Yeah, we've got some belters actually this season. I know what I'm doing after this.
Mate, there's two that we've not even mentioned through all of them. Two both Sean Longstaff goals. The goal, I think they were both against Bournemouth as well. The one at home when he volleys it first time, it comes off the post and goes in, and then the one away from home was an absolute beauty to strike that on the first time volley in the minute of the game. I mean, we've got some unbelievable goals.
Yeah, fantastic.
Wait, hold on a minute, there's another one. Anton Stack against Burnley, the left footer from 40 yards out.
Yeah. Absolute pinpoint accuracy again, isn't it?
That should be in the conversation, really, when you think about it. We're unbelievable.
Yeah, phenomenal, wasn't it? Yeah, great goals. Lots to watch on YouTube again there, absolutely. One category we've put in now, my memory for this type of thing is absolutely terrible, but we've got save of the season. You're going to have to help me out with this, Jay. I know that Perry has actually had some unbelievable saves. His agility and reactions on some. There was one, I think it was against Arsenal, and it kind of went unnoticed a little bit because we got thumped, but just phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal save, and some that Darlow's been pulling out. By the way, he sees saves for Wales as well in a couple of the international. I mean, he absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, what are you going for save of the season? I'm just going to agree with you because I can't actually remember.
Well, I mean, another shout for Lucas Perry. There was one against Birmingham that were an absolute beauty.
Oh yes,
game in the first half, but it was ridiculous save. There's a couple that Darlow's done fairly recently, but the one that really sticks out, and it's actually been nominated for goal save of the season in the Premier League. I don't know whether he's won it or not, but it was the one against Wolves when Krajke, the centre back, kind of flicks a header from a corner, and Darlow's going the other way, and he manages to just flick his right arm up. It's almost the reaction of it is ridiculous, and to tip it over the bar. There's another one from Brighton fairly recently where he's going to his right, and the Pascal Gross shot's going back to his left, and he tips it away with his left hand. But yeah, the Wolves header was sensational, unreal save at point blank range.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. I was at the game, but I can't even remember it. Next category, so we've got two more categories. This is going to be really interesting. With lots of candidates here. Signing of the season. Leeds had a big task, huge task, recruitment-wise, and we know all about what they were looking for in terms of age profile, player profile. You know, players signed, didn't sign anyone over 30, didn't sign anyone under 26. All these different facets. So many kind of players on that list for signing the season. I want to give a shout out to kind of first one I want to talk about is Gabby Goodmanson, left back, I mean, what a nightmare position it's been for Leeds over the year, and we've had so many, round pegs in square holes in that position. We all remember Alioski filling in there, did all right actually, but we've always struggled. It's always been that position where you just think, it's just a bit of a nightmare for us. Junior Firpo in the Premier League, what a nightmare that was. And then pretty early on from Gabby, you just saw 26 when we signed him. I think 8-10 million, something like that. And an unbelievable engine on him. How he's not walked away with, goals and assists, I just don't know.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely crazy. Up and down. Do you know he does that thing, does Gabby, where when he's driving up the wing, you think, he's going to lose the ball here. But then he somehow kind of manages to work it back round. Keeps running. And I never forget the Chelsea game when Estevao kind of kicked out at him petulantly because Gabby had just kind of run all over him. And he's going to be absolutely vital. And, when he's been injured at the back end of the season, we really miss him down that left-hand side. Phenomenal signing, Gabby. I mean, the left-back that we've dreamed of, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a difficult category to discuss because nearly every signing's been almost perfect.
Yeah.
Gabby, I mean, him and Jayden Bogle, especially early on in the season until Justin really staked a claim for that right-back spot, were so vital. And I mean, they've been vital all season, but him especially, so much good intent comes down that side. He gets through so much work, both attacking and defensively. Defensively, he's improved massively as the season's gone on. I mean, the level of upgrade on Junior Firpo's, and I loved Firpo last season, just like everybody did, but it's seismic. It's literally a chasm of quality difference. So, yeah, he deserves a massive shout. I think Yacobiol deserves, again, another mention. Yeah. James Justin could deserve another mention. I'm just conscious of time, so I'm not going to go on waxing lyrical about every single one of them because they could be here all day. There's obviously the two boys up front in Mecha. Mecha should probably have been mentioned more in the underrated because he's got some absolutely vital goals and done some unbelievable work. So yeah, Gabby. I don't know if Gabby's your pick or not, but definitely deserve the mention, considering the price as well. Now, we did make an agreement beforehand that you can't have a more than one per category, because I think there's different reasons why you would then potentially put one for player of the season, one for signing of the season if they've just been signed this season, right? And one of my kind of factors that have gone into my choice, if you want my choice now, would be the potential resale value and long-term kind of benefit of the signing, as well as the player quality, obviously, which is massive. And that for me comes down to Anton Stack. I think Anton Stack wouldn't look out of place in any team in the division. I genuinely think he could play minutes for Arsenal when they've just won the Premier League. I certainly think he'd get starts at Man City. I think he'd look an absolute tank in their midfield, if I'm honest. And everybody else, I think he starts games. I think he starts every week for most of the other teams in the division. And we've been lucky enough to get him. And I think at the minute, you're looking at a player that we signed for 15 to 20 million being worth nearly 50.
Yeah.
So for all them reasons, along with the output, the ground he covers, the goals he scored, the assists he's made, he is, apart from Okafor, the only one with an X factor of quality. His quality stands out off the page. When other teams and fans watch Leeds United, they look at Anton Stack and go, bloody hell, he's a good player. And he's one of the only ones that does that, that kind of gives that reaction. So for me, he's my signing of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with anything you're saying there. I love those moments that players have. It's like when Mecha scored against Fulham at home and when Stack scored against Burnley, because it was like the tension could have really built in that game, but he's just left foot, bang, slot it in, everybody's chilled, and we win the game. And his bar is so high, and I think Stack is the best player in this team. I think he's the best player. My signing of the season, though, is going for DCL. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin is my signing of the season. I think it was one of those. It was probably, I mean, what would you describe the reaction as when we signed DCL? Mixed, concerned, at best, probably.
Yeah, concerned would probably be the good word.
Yeah, people, absolutely doubted what he could do, but his input, what he's delivered this season, to nearly put himself in the World Cup squad, 14 goals, 1 assist, signed on a free. A free. I mean, it is absolutely staggering. I just cannot believe, if you take that signing away from us, and, you mentioned, I think either on this show or the previous show we did about the process of how we signed him and that whole thing, it's absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, my pick for signing the season, it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Moving on then, final category, we've got his player of the season. Now, if we could have picked a double winner, I may have been tempted to go for DCL for this as well. And player of the season, it's one of those kind of all-encompassing kind of titles. Is it impact? Is it consistency? What is it that kind of makes it? In terms of player of the season, who are your kind of nominees? Who are you leaning towards? And then do you want to tell us who you've gone for?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely could have had a bunch of names for this. I think, I made the point earlier, I knew we're never going to win it, but I think there's an argument since he's coming to the team that James Justin's right up there. Yeah. I think, there's hot and cold from Okafor, but I think at the key times, the key moments, he was absolutely key. I think there's a very real possibility that we go down without him, even though the burst of what he gave us was in much shorter periods rather than the whole season. I think you could make again a case for Anton Stack. I gave Anton Stack the sign of the season, so it kind of ruled it out from this one. And there's a reason that I didn't give Dominic Calvert-Lewin the sign of the season, because I wanted to leave him open for this one. Obviously, the man in the background, Ethan Ampadu, deserves so much credit. And maybe it's just me wanting to go a bit different than what happened in the club, that I'm not dropping it to him. But he deserved it. Absolutely, he's a fantastic winner, players player, and player of the season voted for by the fans and the media and all the rest of it. He's typified everything that's been great about Leeds United this season. He's an unbelievable captain at his age, considering the fact that he's 24, 25. He's still no age. There's no kind of. From the older boys, Calvert-Lewin as an example, I think looks up to an Ethan Ampadu. I think he's an unbeliever leader of men. We're a better team with him in there. We lack leadership without him, certainly from a defensive point of view. I can't talk enough about how much he's stepped up to Premier League level and glaze him enough. He's been unbelievable. So there'd be every reason to give it to him. But I've got to give it to Calvert-Lewin, because for me, I look at the overall picture of the way that we play. I do believe we could have probably stayed up just without Ethan Ampadu. Just. And I'm talking by a cat's hair, right? Like, I don't think we stay up without Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah.
If Lucas Mecha and Joe Perreault were expected to do the job that he did all season, I think we go down.
Yeah,
I don't think it's not just the goals either. The 14 goals are important. The penalties, he missed one penalty, but apart from that, he was so reliable from the spot. Mecha was good at that as well, by the way. I've got to give him that. But he was just so key to the way that we played and the way that we found success as the season went on. He was reliable in terms of injuries, always available, did all the dirty work, did all the good work as well, put his body on the line. He just did everything that we needed. And like I say, I think without him, we very likely go down. I think we could have survived just without Ampadu, and probably again just without Noah Okafor, just. And that's why he's my shout. And I think he just deserves all the credit. The knives were out, weren't they, for Dominic Calvert-Lewin?
Definitely.
Certainly from a media perspective, the fans really weren't buying into it, and he's proved everybody wrong, and he deserves all the credit in the world. He's been sensational.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And I would probably say I 100% agree from the fact if you take DCL out of this team, we go down, and I don't feel that about any other player. Because even if you look at Anton Stack, who's one of my candidates for this, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, but there's been large periods where he's not played and we've still picked up points. There was that stat. We got more points when Gruev was in the team. Wild to say it, but it's true. And yeah, I think DCL's been absolutely phenomenal. Beal as well was another kind of potential player this season. I think he is another level when he's in that defence. And the game against Brighton the other week where he was just in front of everything and marshalling everything, absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, Beal right up there. Ampadu's going to get mine from kind of being able to, and I think he's a worthy winner. I think you've described him perfectly. He is Mr. Leeds United. At this time, he is, the player. He's the one. He's the focal point. He's, won Player of the Year and Players Player of the Year at the club awards. A phenomenal asset. We're all itching to hear that there's been a contract extension. We talk about SCR and the fact that we're going to have to make sales, and he's at the top of the list for players I don't want to see leave this club, but I know every player has his price, and hopefully would bring us a huge fee if it happened. The age factor, like you've mentioned, 25. This is a guy that, if we develop and grow as a club and he stays as captain and we improve his terms, he can lead us for the next 5, 6, 7 years or whatever he wants. So yeah, Ethan is my player of the year. Phenomenal player. And hopefully long may it continue, and hopefully we can get a contract extension signed pretty soon. But yeah, any final comments on any of the awards, Jay, or any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just to say on Ethan, it'd be lovely to see that kind of longevity. I think of John McGinn at Villa as kind of an example of somebody that can come from the Championship, grow with the club. If Villa were to continue to struggle outside the relegation places, John McGinn might have moved on, but he stayed there and built with. Why can't Ethan Ampadu do that with us? There's actually no difference really. I think the kind of age range is when John McGinn was stepping through is similar to Ethan Ampadu. You could argue that Ampadu's got more experience and maybe he's got more potential, so he might be more attractive to some other clubs. But I truly believe that he's invested in Leeds United. I think he's very happy at Leeds United. I don't think he right now needs much more to be able to satisfy what he's doing with his career. Leeds have flirted with a trophy this season in the FA Cup, and we've shown progression. If we continue to do that, why can't we have season 2, season 3? I truly believe if we'd have gone in the right direction under Radson and Orta with Bielsa, Rafinha would have seen the same project. There was a contract on the table, and we went the other way, and Rafinha didn't like the idea of the project, and I can't blame him. We need to make sure that we keep on progressing for these players to stay. So I'm so proud of Ethan Ampadu. It sounds like a bit of a weird thing to say, but I'm proud that he's a Leeds United captain. He falls in line with the likes of Strachan, the likes of Brenner, the likes of Liam Cooper in a different way. Coops was a different generation, but he still meant a lot to us. I know David Batty was never really a captain, but the leader on the pitch, it embodies everything that Leeds United's about. Alan Smith, I know he wasn't really the captain, but the way that he held Leeds United on the pitch, Ethan does that. The way that he speaks he's just a class act. He's an absolute class act. You can tell that he's been brought up in and around football as well. And he just gets it. And like I say, I think he's 24 now. He's been playing men's first team football since he was 15. He's got so much experience. He's travelled the world. He's played in different countries. He's played for mega giants like Chelsea, and he's just complete, man. He really is, and he can only get better with more Premier League experience. So yeah, great, totally deserved winner of Player of the Season as well.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's that thing as well, isn't it? Where I think if you're having a great era, you need that stalwart, and I think you bang on like Strachan and those type. You need that, but it's what we did when we got relegated last time. We didn't have anyone, did we? Really, that kind of did that. No, Tyler Adams a little bit, but quite.
If Liam Cooper didn't play it when we went down, who were captain? I can't remember. I can't remember because there was no obvious leader. This team doesn't have that. It has so many leaders, but you're right. That team was just desperately looking for guidance and direction, and we just didn't have any of it.
We didn't have any of it. No, we didn't. Good stuff. Well, that's our West Yorkshire Football Show Leeds United end of season awards. Lots of exciting content coming up around Leeds United on the channel. We're going to be doing squad audits. We're going to be doing transfer shows. So stay tuned. We will come on your feed with these shows, and I can't wait to discuss it all with Jay. It's going to be phenomenal. So keep a lookout for that. If you've got any comments on anything we've discussed, if you disagree, agree, let us know. Get your comments in. Please do like the video and also subscribe to the channel. I've been Stephen Brown, with me as ever, Jason Booker. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, mate.
And we will see you again soon. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.